Okay, guys, this is going to be another one of those times when we reflect on what is really the most important question. And that is, why are we all here? And I'm not going to pretend it's very obvious that the vast majority of us would not have ever gone into crypto if these assets didn't go up and down and sometimes exponentially increase in value. That's what drew the vast majority of us in. The vast majority of people would not be in crypto if that part weren't ever present. And while that's all true, there's also another huge opportunity in crypto. While that whole cyclical thing is going on with the assets, this novel technology, these blockchains and these crypto assets provide us with an opportunity to actually solve humanity scale problems. If you're mainly preoccupied with your self scale problems, and those mainly revolve around your crypto assets not being worth a damn thing at this point, or if you're finding value in these videos, please consider delegating to the Army of Spies DRep address and the Army of Spies stake pool, ticker AOS. All right. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining, everybody. Let's see who's here. Pucky Hawk is here. He says, Beast mode, first one. Hilldog says, let's fucking go. Thanks for joining. Fly Over Me says, Hilltoppers, let's go. Let's go. Dr. Doke, no problems. Dr. Doke says, really enjoyed yesterday's video. Thank you. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Hard for me to join the chat as I'm always at the Fiat Mines during these. Okay, well, I appreciate you dropping by regardless. Thank you so much for coming by. Daniel Wiggins, MoneyGram sounded promising. We are going to talk about it. I don't know if we're going to have very detailed coverage of it, but just the whole idea sounds great. Otis Fricho says, let's go, AOS. Let's go, Otis Fricho. Jay Coco says, let's fucking go. Let's go. Hilldog says, how does retail come back? Ooh, that's a good question. We can talk about that. In fact, we are going to talk about that. I hadn't thought about what we're going to talk about in those terms, but it is about that kind of. Puckyhawk says, I spent the day trying to talk H&R Block to team up with Cardano because TurboTax is kicking their ass. I like that. And it's true. They are. It's true they are. Okay, so I think we're going to have a little bit smaller audience tonight because a lot of people are still either watching the State of the Union. Maybe they started late. Maybe they're still watching it. Maybe that was the bulk of their YouTube watching already done tonight. So we might have a little bit smaller crowd. But Puppers is here. Had cops called on him yesterday for kicking some other liberal Shiba's ass. Not a good night. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to hear that the long arm of the law has reached out and touched Puppers. That's sad news. That's sad news. Okay, let's jump into what I'm talking about here. So this is not a mass immigration depiction here. This is just the best thing I could think of. I was thinking of what represents, a microcosm of a humanity scale problem. Maybe a whole bunch of people trying to walk up a steep hill. This sometimes happens when there's like some kind of a, charity walk or a charity hike, or, a bunch of people are going to like, a hilltop concert, I guess, or something. But I've been in these circumstances where a bunch of people are walking somewhere and there's trudgery involved. And you feel different in that context when you're with a bunch of people and you're all walking together, you're all experiencing human hardship, the exact same human hardship all together at the same time. It does feel like a microcosm of what we're going to talk about tonight, which are humanity scale problems. So here's what made me think about this. So I don't often rely on the posts of posters like this, but I do happen to like this particular one. This is Tim Draper. We all know Tim Draper is otherwise involved, kind of involved in the Cardano ecosystem. But Tim Draper has been a guy who's been watching crypto for a long, long time, long been a proponent of crypto. And he's obviously, famously, the sort of prototypical Silicon Valley VC guy, right? He's that guy. And I don't often talk about what the venture capital world is up to because it has so little to do with what we're doing here in Cardano. But he's right about this. Tim Draper he's right about a lot of things, actually. And he's wrong. I disagree with him about a lot of things also, but he's right about this. So this is obviously him trying to drum up projects for his VC shop, but he says something really important here. He says, if you're solving massive problems for humanity and making people feel uncomfortable along the way, we should probably talk. I want to fund the wild, weird, and unconventional. As my son puts it, we want to fund the rebellion. And then he talks about the areas he's interested in. Those aren't so important for us. But he says, the problems our portfolio companies are solving are humanity scale crises that we're tackling with an unconventional edge. We are putting our money behind the founders who think bigger, broader, and maybe even crazier. And then, it's like a sort of promotional, call to action, whatever. We don't care about that part. But the philosophical sentiment here is right. What he's saying is there are plenty of people out there, creating little, it used to be little SaaS projects. Back in the day, it was like little applications, that ran on desktops. And then it was like websites. We had the .com boom and bust and boom again. And then it was like, mobile apps, and then it was like crypto coins. And then it was, at the same time, sort of SaaS products. And now it's AI projects, right? And, there's a certain ingredient list for those things for them to be successful. And it's often not doing anything fantastic, right? It's often solving some little tiny problem, right? Like right now, it's people writing, creating little AI projects that solve a very specific niche problem that some limited number of people are going to encounter. And maybe they're willing to pay, X amount of dollars per month, some trifling amount of money to use your little piece of software you've created with AI or whatever. So we're all familiar with this model. That's not what he's talking about here. He's talking about the big things, the humanity scale problems. And this isn't going to be a discussion where we talk about, the slash and burn agriculture destroying the Amazon or saving the manatees or anything like that. People will know what movie that's a reference to. But it's not saving the manatees that I'm focused on tonight. I think there are other humanity scale problems we're all going to be encountering pretty soon. It's not the same subject matter as last night, although I'm deeply interested in that as well, the whole UAP NHI thing. This is other things. I think the biggest humanity scale issue we're going to encounter soon is related to dislocation in the workforce due to AI. Some people, as an almost immune response, immediately reject this topic because they think it'll be just like the Industrial Revolution. Sure, you don't need as many farm hands to, sow the seeds and harvest the crops and all those things, but other jobs will pop up to replace those. And I'm sure that's true to some extent. But if at this point you think we're going to go through this AI revolution and not suffer dislocation in the workforce due to AI being so capable of the same cognitive labor that all of us humans, especially in service-oriented economies like in the Western world, all of these white-collar jobs a lot of us have been doing that focus mainly on cognitive labor. If you don't think there's going to be dislocation in those job markets, we can just disagree. But AI is going to be this big transformational force. It is going to be a humanity scale transformation. Sure, you could argue it's not a challenge, it's not a problem, it's just going to be a transformation. Maybe you're right, but I think there are going to be humanity scale challenges. And I think for a long time, we speculated in crypto that this is where crypto is going to come in, right? Everybody in crypto, myself included, has said for a long time that crypto will be the money that AI uses to pay each other and even to pay humans, right? That sounds really dystopic. Sounds like a dystopian future where humans, real live flesh and blood humans, might be working for AIs. But let's face it, any AI agent can open up a crypto account It can figure out ways to get that crypto account funded. It can do cognitive labor and get paid in crypto. The AI agents are going to have money. They're going to have accounts to pay out of. Therefore, there will be humans willing to do the work that the AIs can't in the real world, right? You can imagine a future where we've achieved both sort of a very high level of agentic AI and a very high level of robotics, where humans aren't needed for the physical labor in the real world or the cognitive labor. Sure, that's probably down the road, but we've already reached this point where agentic AI is going to have some crypto wallets, and they're going to have some crypto in those wallets that are worth real value in the real world. So there are going to be humans working for AI agents. That sounds horrifying to a lot of people, but I sort of try to pride myself on being a realist. This is something that realistically is going to happen, right? So one human level challenge we're going to be encountering is not just like sort of mentally, spiritually, philosophically accepting that reality. It's going to be how to make that happen in a way that doesn't make us feel like we're in the matrix, a way that's mutually beneficial to both the agentic AI who's going to have that money and also the humans. In fact, as humans, we'd probably like it a way in favor of the humans, right? Like, I really wouldn't care if I was doing the same fiat mind style cognitive or other labor for a corporation versus some AI who's willing to pay me, and could this look very dystopian if it's done on a large scale and that's like 100% of your labor, and there are just like thousands of humans working for one instance of agentic AI? Sure, that sounds like the Matrix. That sounds pretty terrible. Granted, in the Matrix, they were actually functioning as batteries. They weren't really working per se. They weren't necessarily working for the AI. They were more like batteries. But I think we have to start planning for this, and blockchains might be a great way to kind of push this in favor of the humans. I think we can build out systems using blockchains and crypto assets that make this something that can be beneficial for humans, right? I've definitely worked for some corporations and other types of corporate entities that were as horrific as the worst version of working for an AI, right? And in some ways, maybe it could be worse working for a corporate group full of humans, because they're not even going to be logical, where you hope the AI is going to be logical. But I think this is a big humanity scale problem, big humanity scale challenge that we can probably do something about in crypto. And here you've got VCs who are already thinking about this kind of thing. I mean, you've got two different topics in his little list. Sure, he's interested in things like defense, space and aerospace, healthcare and biotech, but he lists AI, of course. The very first thing he lists is AI. And the very last thing he lists is crypto and blockchain. I think the nexus between these two things is maybe going to be the big thing that crypto can do for the world that TradFi really can't, right? We've already talked on this channel many, many times about how AI agents are not going to go, willingly. They're not going to come to like this logical conclusion that they should go open a Chase account, right? They don't want to have a Chase checking account. There's no logical benefit to an AI agent to having an account at Chase on TradFi Rails when they could just have a crypto account, right? It's something they can create digitally. It's something they can manipulate digitally, and they never have to go down to the goddamn Chase branch and sign some kind of a depositor slip or something, right? So they never have to do KYC. If we do our jobs right this decade with crypto regulation, as long as self-hosted wallets are a thing, that's going to be the go-to for the AIs. So I think this is a good place where crypto can really shine. I think crypto and the whole blockchain space, I think we can really shine in this respect. And I don't think we've really been doing what Tim Draper is suggesting here, thinking about the really big ideas. What happens in crypto is people look around crypto, people who want to build something in crypto, they look around crypto and they don't say to themselves, hey, I should go build a RealFi. Hey, I should figure out how I can combine longevity research and crypto. They're not a bunch of Charles Hoskinses. What you have are guys who just want to make money. So what are they going to do? They're going to go with the tried and true model. They're going to build things like DEXs and lending platforms and synthetics platforms, all the things we've done a billion times in crypto. And I'm not saying that's bad. It's logical. They're just following their own pecuniary interest. You can't really demand much more from a person than that. That's what humans are going to do, right? And it's smart to do it because it's a proven way to make some money in crypto. But there's something else too. So I'm not bemoaning or complaining about the people who do that. We need those things. We need DEXs. We need DeFi. We need all those types of DeFi platforms. But we should also do more of this. We should also be thinking about these big ideas. How can we use blockchain to push the balance of power between, let's face it, our future, some of our future AI masters, the balance between agentic intelligence, agentic AI intelligence, and human intelligence, right? We can set up systems right now that might give us a head start on that, might actually be beneficial for the humans. We can do some of these big ideas in blockchain. Blockchain was made for these big ideas. Blockchain was not made for a bunch of people to create DEXs over and over and over again and nothing else. Like blockchain, the whole idea of crypto and blockchains was a big idea right from the start. What if the central banks, can you imagine a developer sitting down and saying to himself, what if the central banks couldn't inflate the money? Can I write a piece of software that pushes us toward that goal? It's like, it's such a big idea. It's almost implausible, right? It's almost incredible. How could you possibly write one piece of software that's going to even make a dent in that, right? How could you possibly write something that the central banks of the world would be worried about? And Satoshi did that. Satoshi did exactly that. It didn't start out that way. When he and Hal Finney did the first transaction, if you believe they're two different people, I don't necessarily believe that. But when that first transaction was done, it was still very implausible. When the first Bitcoin pizza transaction was done, who was the buyer of that? Laszlo, the seller, buyer. I don't know if he's on the selling end or the buying end, but when that first transaction was done, when we had Bitcoin, the very first Bitcoin pizza day, it was still implausible. It was impossible to think that this whole space, this asset class, would ever become so valuable. But here we are, right? From tiny acorns grow mighty oaks. And I think Tim Draper is right to present that to the world. He's not just talking to us. He's not just talking to us in crypto. Maybe the fact that we're in last place on his list means he's talking to us last, but I think his advice applies here. Now is the time in crypto. We've already played out all the DeFi stuff, all the NFT stuff, all the casino stuff. That's all played out. We've done that. Everybody's sick of it. They don't want to hear about that from us anymore. It's time for us to launch the big ideas, to build the big things. And I think most of them are going to feel a lot like what Charles Hoskinson is calling RealFi. I think a lot of them are going to feel more like that. They're going to feel more like, tokenization of assets that's not just to create another speculative asset that actually serves a purpose. It's going to be the creation of platforms that run on crypto that do real world things. So this is just a thought, something to consider. But I think if crypto is to prosper, if it's to shine like it has in the past, this is the move we need to make, right? It doesn't have to be the nexus between crypto and AI, but like I've said before, we've got to do real shit. It's got to feel like what Tom Draper's son was talking to about here. They want to fund the rebellion. Crypto needs to be the rebellion. Crypto needs to be a part of the rebellion, right? It's like you could argue that some of the things that Anduril is doing is maybe a little bit of a rebellion inside the defense space. Maybe some of the things that SpaceX is doing is a rebellion inside the space and aerospace space. No triple pun intended there. But crypto has a chance to really revolutionize things because that's what we're built on. That's what Satoshi did with the Genesis block. He did a really big thing that was a really big rebellion. This is what crypto needs to get back to. Okay. Just wanted to comment on that. Let's get back to the comments here. So Mission Zebby says, good morning, AOS fam. Let's go. Hildog says Tim Draper was a big supporter of Space Chain. Remember that? Satellites performing crypto transactions in space. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I think I knew that at one point. But it's been a while. It's been a while. So Streetwise says just hopped over from the State of the Union. Let's go. I watched a bit of it. I didn't have much time, but I watched the first little bit of it. S. Walker says, "Our AI created bones. Puppers not down with it." Fair enough. 7 out of the 10 Midnight Network federated validators have been announced now. Yeah, we're going to talk about one of the latest ones. I'm with you on this. It's likely a bigger issue than most believe. Thankfully, I use a hammer for my income, but I still worry for society. Yeah, me too. I worry quite a bit. I think it's Andrew Yang had it right. Andrew Yang had it right before anybody even understood. It's like it's a much bigger dislocation. This cognitive labor transfer is a much bigger dislocation than people are giving it credit for. X is making a wallet. I got invited to have one. I did not so far, but I'm intrigued. Oh, interesting. Okay, this is the first time hearing about it. Thank you. Thank you for that update. I've been waiting for this for fucking years. Excellent news. Thank you. Rulo, hola. Thank you for joining. Good to see you. James Syracuse is here. Puckyox says the internet took a while to do real world things, but when it went, it totally sent it and shit. Agreed. I think crypto's the same. I mean, let's face it, the internet in the early days, like I was intrigued. And people like me were, but in the early days, it wasn't doing a whole lot for the average person, right? I was like down in the basement doing the AOL dial-up thing so I could get on the internet, and there were not a whole lot of people I could talk to about that who understood why it was so valuable. A lot of questions like, but what are you doing there? Are you talking to strangers? Like, what are you doing that's so interesting on the internet, right? Is there anything in there that's not in the newspapers, right? A lot of questions like that. I think crypto is a little bit at that stage still. Let's take a moment to thank Charles for Cardano. He's what got me in and kept me. Same here. If not for that whiteboard video, I think a lot of people would not be in Cardano. The dude is a very good speaker and community. It's weird because he's a very motivating orator. He's also very polarizing, right? We can definitely all name some politicians who are very similar. But yeah, Charles is the reason probably a huge proportion of us are here. He's also, a guy who a lot of people, as much as we appreciate him, there's a lot of people he's polarizing to. So there you go. Okay, let's jump in and talk about some things here, guys. This was good news. I think I've already, in my mind, this was already true, but I'm glad to see it. Yeah, I actually agree with this. Hildog, I actually agree with this. I don't say this very often, but I actually agree with this. I do. Charles is a Spitfire and I love it. So Hildog was saying, if you're just listening, not watching, Hildog said he's only polarizing if you're stupid. I actually think this is true. I think Charles is polarizing to a lot of people who can't think outside the box. That's the way I would put it. And he is a Spitfire, as Pucky Hawk put it too. Yeah. So I think this is very true. In my head, this was already true. I already believed this to be the case. And I would have been pretty pissed if it turned out not to be the case. So I'm glad to see this. I think I've seen this many times already, but I'm glad to see it every time. This post says, White House says President Trump will not pardon Sam Bankman-Fried. That would have been a step too far. If he would have pardoned Sam Bankman-Fried, like there's been a lot of commotion over some of the previous pardons, and probably rightfully so. This one, I think he would have lost us on this one, right? I think he would have lost a lot of people in crypto on this one. This one could not have been explained away. This would have been too much. So I was glad to see this. So here is something else. So here's a little post from Stick with Pride. Like I've said many times, Stick with Pride, probably one of the best posters in all of Cardano. So here's Stick with Pride laying out some parameters around midnight for you. I don't know how many of these are true. Some of them, like the fact there's a subunit of night called stars. The fact that, dust decays. Some of these things are true. I don't know the exact numbers. I don't know how much dust is generated per week by one night, but I thought this was a pretty good post. Saint has something interesting to say too. Wasn't there going to be a marketplace where we can sell dust for anyone who wants to use it? I thought Seba was the one talking about it very recently in some interview. Stick with Pride says it's a concept called the capacity exchange. You can exchange the dust energy for, I think, other tokens on Midnight, I believe, initially through Sunday Swap on Midnight. But since dust can't leave the Midnight blockchain, you can't sell it on your typical DEX or centralized exchange, I think. So thank you to Jay Marie for pointing out this little exchange to me. I think it's interesting. It's interesting to pick up any of the conversation that's going on around Midnight and dust. What I would say though, the one thing that a lot of people probably haven't done is you can download the Lace Midnight Preview wallet and you can point it at the pre-prod chain and you can download Night from the faucet on the pre-prod chain right now. And if you do that inside the wallet, you'll see some of the mechanics for sort of delegating your dust generation to other parties. And I think that's going to explain, once you've gone through that process and actually done it, you're going to understand a little bit more about what's going to be happening once we hit mainnet, which is soon, right? That's happening soon. Weren't we told late next month, like a month from now, we're going to be on mainnet? But if you want a little preview of that, you might, and you've got some time, you might want to do that. Just go download the Lace Preview wallet, and then in settings, set it to pre-prod, the pre-prod testnet instead of the preview testnet. And if you look around, you're going to find a faucet where you can get some pre-prod Night. So it's not going to be Night that's worth money. It's not going to be Night on mainnet. It's just test Night. It's testnet Night. So it's not going to be worth anything, but you can get some of it and have it start generating dust. And you can see how the tool is going to work inside the Lace wallet to sort of delegate, sort of send your dust generation to other parties. So that's probably going to help explain to some people. It's probably going to help illustrate to people how all this is going to work. But having said that, my understanding is the same as Stick with Pride as far as the dust capacity exchange goes. That's about what I've heard as well, which is just public information that anybody has access to. So here's the big piece. So another post. Thank you to Daniil for pointing this one out to me. As you can tell, I was a little bit busy today doing some hustling around, keeping things going. So I really appreciate people pointing out posts like this to me. So this is a post from IOG. Man, we've come a long ways from IOHK to it almost being IOYO to, whatever it was before, and now just IOG Input Output Group. So I like it though. It's getting simpler, like all corporate names and logos tend to do. So MoneyGram is a Midnight federated mainnet validator. So here's some interesting stats about MoneyGram. MoneyGram moves twice as much money as Western Union. Midnight partnerships speak volumes. So MoneyGram and its own PR materials, MoneyGram says it is processing over 200 billion USD annually. In its latest full year results release, Western Union reports consumer money transfer cross-border principal of 100 billion. So sounds like that's right. I haven't looked into this myself, but MoneyGram is a pretty big deal. And this is exactly the kind of real world use you want for a blockchain, right? It's not like this is the first time any blockchain has ever tried to address, cross-border remittances. That's one of the classic, sort of theorized use cases for crypto. This is something we've talked about since the very early days of crypto. I think even in my earliest Bitcoin days, people were talking about cross-border remittances, what a gigantic market it is. I know because I do them. I do cross-border remittances. So I know it is a very big use case, right? And I know what a pain in the ass it is and how much easier crypto could make it. I've talked about it before on the channel. If everybody could just use crypto for it, if there were normal, if it was normalized, if the use of crypto was normalized for this and the person on the other end was willing to use crypto for it, it would make life so much easier. So I think this is a really big use case. MoneyGram, this is the kind of federated mainnet validator I want to see, right? This is a really good sign. Good job, IOG and Midnight. This is exactly what we really want to see. These are the foundations of RealFi. These are the foundations of really doing RealFi. Getting a cross-border remittances, operator on board. This is doing the real shit that's going to help crypto actually achieve its promise, right? Stopping all the casino bullshit and doing the real shit. These are the kind of foundations you lay for that. So good job, IOG. Good job, Midnight. Thank you. More importantly, thank you for going in the right direction on this. While every other blockchain is just trying to reinvent the next speculative casino asset, thank you to IOG for being real ones. So this is also still in play here, guys. So this post says, now it's real. The possibility that the Clarity Act will come into force as law in 2026 has just shot up. It's expected to happen in April of this year or even earlier, 84%. Who knows? But I like to keep my finger kind of on the pulse of what's going on with the Clarity Act. It really is the most important thing going on for us right now. The Clarity Act is a do or die moment. If we don't get that Clarity Act, we're fucked. So I think it's important to keep track of this. Dolph B. Wolf, thank you for joining. Good to see you. Dolph B. Wolf says, love that Charles says it like he sees it. Yeah, dude wears his heart on the sleeve. That's going to turn some people off. Some people need everything sugar coated. Charles, homeschooled, went to college when he was 2 or whatever, 2 years old. You know what I mean? It's like, he's not going to sugarcoat shit. He's just going to lay it out there. So I agree. Some people don't like it. I prefer that. I can avoid all the sugarcoating and deception and deflection and, polite talk. I'd rather just have it for real, especially on some shit as important as this. So I'm with you on that. Why are people so salty about Charles? The ETH drones are mad, or he's threatening people groups that need the establishment. I mean, it all goes back to the fact that he was one of the co-founders of Ethereum. And then he was like, fuck Ethereum. I'm going to do something better. Right. It's like, I mean, God, what can we compare this to? It's like any founder ever splitting off from a company and saying, I'm going to start my own shit and we're going to do it better. Everybody at that original company is going to hate his ass. I mean, that's what's been going on from the start. On top of that, he's not quiet about his thoughts, right? Like I said, I'm glad he's not. Charles is going to say it. You know what I mean? He's going to say it. If he has a strong feeling about something, he's not going to hide it to be polite. He's going to say it. So that's part of it too. But I mean, it all goes back to that same thing. If he was just still inside Ethereum, if somehow, and this could have never happened, just given what we know about the personalities, this could have never happened. But if somehow he had just like devoted his life to being Vitamin Butter's secondhand man and was talking that much mad shit about Ethereum, the Ethereum people would all love his ass. They would love him. They would love him like we love him. But he's not. He's that guy who broke off and started his own shit and talked a lot about how it was going to be better. That's why they hate him. Brown Beardo says, yeah, I had to verify it was that MoneyGram too, because it's a service name I've heard before as well. This is a powerful partner so long as they all follow through on agreements. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, right? Like the news is great. The promise of this thing is great. Could they jump in and validate on the mainnet and lose interest? Yeah, totally. I mean, Dish Network, right? It's not like we haven't seen that before. That's a thing that can happen. So the news that this is happening right now is fantastic. The promise of what this could be is fantastic. Could it also fizzle out? It could, and has such a thing happened before, and Cardano also has. So these are good points. Good evening. Let's fucking go, Brown Beardo. Puckyhawk says, I had to walk uphill both ways to school as a newborn. Yep. Puppers asked if you want to see a hidden disc on Diego Garcia base on Google Earth. I very much do. Could you give me the coordinates? Thank you. This is right up my alley. Tonight is the perfect night to offer me something like that too. So please do. Please post that. I would love to see the coordinates to a hidden disc on Diego Garcia. So that would be fantastic. I would love it. By the way, I'm going to spend some time fleshing out the NHI murder board, the NHI relationship chart. I'm going to spend some time fleshing that out. So if I can cut out some time, carve out some time and flesh that out, I'm going to try to flesh that out and give you guys an updated version at some point here. But those are the kind of things. I hope it eventually gets to such a level that we can have such minutia in the NHI relationship chart. Okay. This is the same. So, okay. This is okay. So this is really interesting. So this was a post. This was a post from February 23rd. This was a post from February 19th. So here's why it's important to keep your finger on the pulse of this whole Clarity Act prediction market thing. So on the 19th, we had someone posting 84% chance it's signed into law in 2026. Then, as of yesterday, Clarity Act signed into law in 2026, 43% chance. So while I think it's important to keep our finger on the pulse of what's happening, this is also a market, right? And markets go up and down, any little bit of news. So this is still an uncertain thing with the Clarity Act. We're gonna see what happens with the Clarity Act. I hope to God it passes. We just need it to pass before midterms. It needs to pass before midterms. If it doesn't, we might be fucked, guys. So hopefully we're not fucked. The unfortunate part of it was that there was a bankruptcy and lots of corporate changes of ownership right after the announcement. So hopefully there's lots of reason for this to be different. I hope so. I definitely hope so. I definitely hope so. Okay, here's some other big news. And this is actually very big news. So if you care about Catalyst, this is big news. We would like to share an update regarding Project Catalyst following our joint review. IOG, which operates Catalyst today, and the CF have agreed to work expediently toward the CF assuming stewardship of Catalyst. You heard that right. The CF is going to take over Catalyst. This is a very interesting change, and it makes sense. I mean, IOG has got a lot on its plate. It's always had a lot on its plate, and it kind of makes sense. Like an organization like the CF is kind of where you would expect something like Catalyst to live, you know? And IOG is probably hoping, IOG, I think they've been very smart about regulatory matters. And right now with the Clarity Act, maybe passing, maybe not. I like to think it's more likely to pass than not, but maybe IOG disagrees. If the Clarity Act doesn't pass and we don't get on a good road toward regulatory clarity for crypto, if you're IOG who's done so much work on Cardano, you probably understand that the whole ecosystem is going to look more decentralized if IOG is not operating really central components like Catalyst, right, in the ecosystem, right? It's going to look much better in terms of a review of the decentralization of Cardano. Even though we're by far the most decentralized, it's going to look a lot better if Catalyst is in the CF. Plus, IOG, they've got other fish to fry. I think they're probably very happy to give up Catalyst. And honestly, this is a pretty good role for the CF. So I think this is probably a good thing. Does it mean that we should continue funding Catalyst or not? No, I don't think it necessarily has any bearing on that. Like the idea of Catalyst and the validity of the idea is one thing. Who should be running it is another. And you could say like, yeah, this is a good idea for it to go to the CF. And I think it would also be reasonable. I'm not saying this is my position, but it would be reasonable at this point for somebody to say, while I'm glad it's going to the CF, I also don't think we should fund it in the future, right? Or you could say, I think Catalyst is the most important thing because it's basically the world's biggest decentralized DAO, the world's big, maybe we could say the world's biggest decentralized VC fund, if you like that better. If you have some other candidate for the world's biggest DAO. And maybe you think that's really important to the ecosystem. So you could have either opinion. What I'm saying is you could have either opinion and still agree that it's probably good for it to go to the CF. So, okay. Omar Wright is here. Omar, let's fucking go. Thanks for joining. You can join late, early, whenever you like. James says you only missed 38 minutes of the hottest Cardano news. That's right. This is fantastic now. Now I need the CF to seed the funding in Catalyst instead of fleecing the treasury for the foreseeable future. To seed the funding. Yeah, hey, actually, that's a very good point. That's a very good point. The CF has some money of its own. The CF has some money of its own. So we could look to the CF and say, hey, maybe Catalyst is a part of your budget now. Pucky Hawk says, back in the day, I made a lot of money selling dish to people. It was easy. I'll bet it was. It's interesting. I think I definitely remember when I knew people who were selling Dish Network, actually. I remember back in the day when people in my age group were doing that. So that makes sense. Are we at all worried that crypto is walking us into tyranny, a Trojan horsing to further one world government control? Isn't gold the most private? It feels like maybe all of crypto is a trap. I don't think so. I think that argument is better made about central bank digital currencies, right? Like, I think it's pretty clear how you build a financial panopticon with central bank digital currencies. We've talked about this many times. Just really quickly, though, if you don't know what a panopticon is, this is this idea of a theoretical prison. You can imagine it this way. This is an oversimplification, but you can imagine it as this theoretical prison where you have a guard tower in the middle. And from the guard tower, you can look into every single prison cell just because of the angle. So the prison cells are built in kind of a ring around the guard tower, and they're all kind of angled so that you can look from the guard tower, you can look into every single cell. So what we don't want is for the central bank to issue its own CBDC and use that to create a financial panopticon. So I think that's like a real danger, right? And to me, that's not crypto. If the central bank issues a fucking ledger-based asset, that's not crypto to me. Crypto has to be decentralized. If you're not decentralized, you're something else. You're pretend. You're, Fugazi crypto or whatever. Like, you're a fake crypto if you're not decentralized. So I don't consider that to be crypto. But your question is more around one world government control. So I don't think one world government control can ever really work, because there's too many parts of the world that, even the regional powers can't control them, right? There are parts of this world where, that are part of they're inside the borders of the national government, and the national government has no effective control over those areas, right? We could do a whole podcast where we could talk about those kind of things. I wrote a paper once in college about one such area where a crazy amount of arms trading was happening because the government just had no control over this area. Some of you probably been there even. A certain type of crowd has probably been there before, and there are many other areas where there's like crazy amounts of narcotics production or refining or trading. We see this right now going on in our neighbor nation state to the south, where we have the cartels who are better armed than the National Guard. Fingers crossed for everybody in Mexico right now. I hope everybody is avoiding any of the danger that's presenting itself down there. But so I don't think nation states can't even control the regions within their own borders. So the idea of a one world government controlling everything, not really. I mean, it's been tried. Like, people have tried to control large swaths of the known world. You've got the Mongol hordes. You've got Alexander the Great. Given the linguistic expanse of the Turkish language, you could say that the Proto-Turks coming out of the steppe, making it all the way to the Bosphorus, linguistically at least, and partially genetically, different groups have tried to control most of the known world. Maybe maybe the Mongol hordes were like the most successful at that. They came the closest. But even so, even with like this superior technology, superior skill set, like shooting these unbelievable, compound bows from horses, drinking horse milk, all the skills involved in the horsemanship there, even having all these advanced skills and this like advanced technology that a lot of your adversaries didn't have, and these better practices like drinking horse milk instead of having to like find, purified water or whatever. Like all of these practices, even with all of that, Genghis Khan could still not control all of the known world. So could anyone else? I mean, right now, we can't even get Iran to not build a nuclear weapon and murder its citizens, right? So, do I think? We're gonna walk into a one world government control? Not so much. I mean, the EU couldn't even keep Brexit from happening. The US can't make the clerics in Tehran not build a nuclear weapon. Could anybody control the whole world? Seems like a tall order. Could be wrong, but seems like a tall order. Is crypto an admission that we've lost and private surveillance is better? Private surveillance is better than Big Brother. I would say big tech. Big tech and what it's become is the admission that private surveillance is better than Big Brother. It is Big Brother to some extent because the IC has certainly tapped into big tech. We know that. But it's nice to hear Charles so happy with the Midnight Foundation. Yeah, that is nice, huh? That is nice. He definitely learned from the challenges of the Cardano ecosystem when he created Midnight and built out the different roles there. S. Walker says, I'm on my phone and don't have Google Earth downloaded. If you pull up Google Earth, I can walk you in live. Okay, what I'll do is I'll try to find it. Diego Garcia is not very big, so I'll try to find it on Diego Garcia. If you can give me some cardinal directions, if you tell me like what part of if you remember what part of Diego Garcia it's in, like roughly, given any landmarks you remember or just cardinal directions, that'll be helpful. But I'll look at it afterwards and I'll try to remember to show it on the next video. How's that? Michael Foucault coin. Michel Foucault coin. Oh, the postmodernist coin. Michel Foucault coin. Even a one world government would not be able to access my crypto. Laugh out loud. Yeah. Genghis Khan was probably the most successful. The most interesting to me by far. The most interesting. Doesn't the top 0.005% make money from war, making hordes try to dominate in order to further fund the top? I mean, you can open up a brokerage account right now with very little money and buy publicly traded defense contractors. So, I mean, you can be a part of that with very little money right now, right? If you want to own, I mean, just take your pick. Take your pick. I remember when I was like 11 years old, they had a stockbroker come in and talk to us. So this is a long, long time ago. This is like, 80s, 90s. They had a stockbroker come into our class and talk to us. It was like, one of those days where, they have a bunch of different professionals. Like I think they had like a firefighter and a cop also, but they had a stockbroker. So he came in and he was like, like a small time stockbroker, not a fancy guy. And I'll never forget, he was like, the only advice I give my clients is to buy the generals, he didn't have a Southern accent. I don't know why I'm talking like that, but as a little kid, he seemed like he was talking in a weird way, compared to us kids. So he's like, the only advice I give my clients is to buy the generals. And he was talking about General Motors, General Mills, and General Dynamics. That was his advice at the time. This is like, 1980 something, probably, almost 1990. Maybe I was a little older than that and was in the 90s, but the dude's advice was to buy those, right? That was his stock advice to us 11-year-olds. So, I mean, even back then, very accessible. You had like a small time stockbroker. His advice for people was to buy a defense contractor. So you can be that guy. You can be part of that. That's one of the cool things about securitization is most of the things that people complain about, the elites of the elites owning, most of those things you can also own. Puckyhawk says, I'm not worried. There's nobody on earth that can access my crypto except me and the possible computer of the future. Yeah, quantum computing is always a problem for us. It's always a phantom lurking in the future. Iran has been weeks away from building a nuke all my life. True, very true. Did we talk about Jane Street? We are going to talk about Jane Street. I believe it's in the tabs. Iran is the same exact country portrayed in the Dictator movie. Sacha Baron Cohen Baron. I always forget what his real name is. But yeah, very funny movie. I do that on Fidelity. Yes. Okay, north end of the island, 4 water holding tanks. Go to history, go to the last satellite pass, not the current past. You must zoom in perfectly. Round disc under the water. Awesome. I can't wait to see this. Thank you. Okay, north end of the island, 4 water holding tanks. Okay. I can't wait to see this. Afro on the Wind says, not bad in the 80s. Would have done all right. Okay, so maybe he was a much fancier stockbroker than I'm giving him credit for. But you make a good point. Afro on the Wind, you make a good point. J. Marie, damn, I'm late. Okay, was watching Squid Game. Let's go. Dude, I just showed the tab you tagged for me. Thank you very much for tagging that for me. I'm so sad that when I was young, I was way too into the party and way not into money. I will admit that I also did my share of partying as a younger guy. I was also working super hard, but yeah, I did some partying too. Jay Coco says, excellent point. Okay. Okay, let's hit this. And here you go. Who asked about it? Who asked about Jane Street? Who was it? Rulo. Here you go. Jane Street. Zero Hedge. Zero Hedge is often accused of being a shady sort of institution. I don't know what to call them. Institution, website, internet poster, social media poster, whatever Zero Hedge is. They're sometimes accused of being, there are people who accuse them of things. I don't even know what to call it really. But I find Zero Hedge to be very entertaining, and I think they make some great observations occasionally. I don't agree with everything they say, but I appreciate Zero Hedge very much, and I at least as far as everything I've seen, I don't find them to be shady. So other people disagree. So, and there it is. Jane Street was behind the 2022 crypto winter, destroying Terraform first by depleting the token. Depegging the token and destroying the ecosystem, then pretending it would rescue Terra, while effectively it was soaking up what little value remained. You guys will remember Novogratz is getting a tattoo of a wolf howling at the moon, preemptively ruining all the midnight tattoos with wolves we could have possibly had. And what happens? Seemingly the very next day, all of a sudden, Luna Terra disintegrates, kicks off the whole 2022 disaster, launches us into this never-ending fucking altcoin nightmare that we're basically still in. Now we've got a bad guy. Now we've got a narrative around a bad guy. Don't sue me, Jane Street. I don't know what really happened. Not presenting anything as fact. But now the crypto world has a name to put to the bad guy we knew was lurking all along. There you go, Jane Street. So, I'm not trying to fuck around with Jane Street, but I like it when crypto has enemies. Blockflow says, Jane Street is being sued over alleged crypto insider trading that may have accelerated Luna Terraform's collapse. Here is a timeline of what happened. So the back channel, Jane Street signs a direct trading pact with Terraform. Jane Street deploys Bryce Pratt, a former Terraform intern. And by the way, also not presenting as fact, just reading somebody else's post. A private comms channel is established between Pratt and Terraform's core engineers. Non-public data begins flowing to Jane Street under the guise of investment discussions. So, I mean, I don't know what happened here, if any of this actually happened, but this definitely sounds like what I expect. What I expect in any environment where these types of players are. Terraform quietly drains 150 million in UST from the curve pool. Less than 10 minutes later, Jane Street, allegedly tipped off via the back channel, front runs the collapse by pulling 85 million from the same pool, escaping before the peg breaks. Do Kwon publicly dismisses the drain as a liquidity move. While the public holds the bag, Pratt messages Kwon to bid on Bitcoin Luna at a discount. Jane Street allegedly leverages intel from jump trading to stay on the profitable side of the DPEG. Terraform enters bankruptcy. Todd Snyder is appointed to claw back billions. Do Kwon receives a 15-year sentence. I believe that was when he wasn't he like keystering a a fucking hardware device, like a I think we had a discussion on this channel whether he would have been better off with a ledger because of the shape. I think he had the other one, the one that's a little wider. Snyder files a redacted complaint in Manhattan federal court against Jane Street. I don't know if that's spurious. I want to believe it's true. I don't know if that's spurious about the hardware wallet and Do Kwon. Snyder files a redacted complaint in Manhattan federal court against Jane Street co-founder Robert Granieri and employees Bryce Pratt and Michael Wong, seeking damages for alleged insider trading and market rigging. So there you go. And even Watcher Guru is taking note. Terra sues Jane Street for alleged insider trading, leading to the collapse of UST and Luna. This is my attitude right there. Samuel L. Jackson. Exactly how I feel about that. Good post by this poster, Kwame. Good post. So, yeah. Also, this gangster shit. Not going to lie. Yeah. But what happens to gangsters? Sometimes they go to prison. So there you go. Jane Street. We can put a name. These are all allegations. I'm not saying this is true, but those are the allegations. So we can now put a name to a bad guy in the whole collapse that has basically put us where we are today. Okay, we already talked about that one. Sorry, I went a little too high up there. Oh, you know what else likes the moon? Black Panthers. Pucky Hawk, did you just give everyone an excuse to get Black Panther tattoos? I gotta say I approve. I'm not gonna oppose you on that, my friend. If everybody in Cardano who was also using Midnight had Black Panthers looking at the moon tattooed on them, that would not be the worst thing in the world. That might not be the worst thing in the world. People outside of Cardano would hate it. They would hate it. They would find it to be so cringy, but that would be part of the magic. I think we should push this. I'm not willing to get one myself. I'm going to come right out and say it. I'm not willing to get one myself, but I think it would be unbelievable. It would be amazing if a bunch of people in Cardano got tattoos of Black Panthers, like looking up at a crescent moon. That would be amazing. Dude, so creative. I love it. I love it. What tipped me off is there were small bleachers in front of the water tanks, which I felt was abnormal. Zoomed in, and there she is. Wow, I can't wait to see this. This sounds amazing, dude. I can't wait to see it. I mean, the cat, not some old group. Yeah, got you. No, I got you. They said BTC manipulation also stopped. Yeah. Man, I would have a hard time believing any kind of manipulation has stopped in crypto. Ouch. James says, ouch. After on the win says Trezor. Yeah, I think I've never figured out if there was any truth to this or if it was just a super hilarious joke. But the idea of Do Kwon and the Trezor is like amazing to me. It's one of the best crypto stories ever. Especially because Do Kwon was such like I mean, no pun intended, but Do Kwon was such a tight ass, right? He's like constantly talking shit to people, like he was the king of crypto. He'd done something so unbelievable. Your size is not size. Your size is not size. And then the story comes out. It's like unbelievable. One of the best things in crypto ever. S. Walker, it's actually an anomaly as Google Earth scrubs and alters or blurs every sensitive item. But yeah, Diego Garcia is the shit. Hey, whatever. I mean, there's probably a lot of things. I mean, there have been a lot of things on Google Earth that have been brushed under the rug as, an anomaly due to, Google Earth, pixelization and, whatever, updates, whatever. But there are also some things on Earth. There are also real things on Earth that are going to show up in satellite photos. So there's a lot of bullshit. A lot of people have pictures of like, a bunch of seaweed and they think it's, like a naga. They think it's like an underwater dragon snake thing, serpent snake. You know what I mean? There's a lot of that going on too. There's a lot of fuckery on that. But there are also things on Earth that satellites are going to see that we're not aware of. So I believe there are things on Google Earth. I'm looking at the Google Earth right now. 2023 image in the sea above the 4 water retention ponds. Nothing. Okay, I'm going to have to look at this because I'm very interested. After the Wind says it's what it takes to be the king of crypto. Dude, it's the prison wallet is what it takes to be the king of crypto. I love it. I love it, dude. I love it. Okay. Here's some real, despite Polymarket's Jekyll and Hyde treatment of Clarity Act chances, here's some real news on Clarity Act, sort of news. I mean, it's not really much, but it's something. New White House stablecoin rewards gap has shrunk considerably. Weird use of the opening quotation there, Eleanor, but appreciate all your reporting very much. The White House's Crypto Council executive director details stablecoin yield talks, the SEC's green light for broker dealers holding stablecoins, and what's on our radar this week. And then she wants to go visit her article. But I like that there's still some positive news coming out. I see the one DOD crypto guy. It's still so weird to me that they have a crypto guy. I get why, but it's still weird that he's like the lead on a lot of this stuff. Still see him with some positive news. It's like whether he's exaggerating how positive things are or not is one thing, but we're really in trouble when even those guys who are in charge of achieving a good result start reporting that things aren't looking good. That's when we're in real trouble on the Clarity Act, and we haven't hit that point so far. So that's actually a good thing, I think. Here's something to be aware of. Most of you have probably seen this already, but I think it's important to be aware of this. So according to a senior U.S. government official, DeepSeek illegally obtained banned Blackwell chips, used those chips to train its upcoming model, and plans to delete the evidence and likely lie about what chips it actually used, and also trained its models using distillation attacks that allowed it to steal IP from leading U.S. AI labs. When DeepSeek releases its new model and claims to have trained it from scratch using 2000 H800 chips, hopefully the world will recognize that is a lie. The fact is, DeepSeek is almost entirely dependent on banned American technology and IP. It is training its models by illegally using U.S. chips and illicitly stealing U.S. IP. These actions must have consequences. Just like the humans controlling the robots thing, does this really surprise anyone? This should surprise no one. This should surprise no one. This has been the story of China and IP for decades. We've known about this for decades. Okay, this is interesting. Omar says, my name came into the English lexicon through the Ottoman Empire taking control of Spain. It is much more common across the Spanish-speaking diaspora. So we had the Ottoman Empire controlling a large swath of the Levant, the Middle East, and North Africa. And then we had groups from North Africa in Spain for sure. So the timeline makes sense. But yeah, Turkish is like a wild language, right? Because you've literally got Turkish being spoken from China to Europe. There's a band of Turkish-speaking countries. If you go from, basically what we might describe, the CCP wouldn't like this, but what we might describe as like Uyghur into Central Asia, the rest of Central Asia, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, across the sea to Azerbaijan, and then into Turkey. You go from China, you go from like the theoretically proposed homeland of Proto-Turkic languages, which is maybe in the Altai Mountains, right? So think like the sort of the border area, the tri-border of Kazakhstan, China, and Mongolia. This is like a proposed homeland for the Turkic languages. So you go from the Altai Mountains, and the spread into parts of what is now China with the Uyghur population. You go from there all the way to Europe. You're in Europe. You're on the other side of the Bosporus, and these are all Turkish-speaking groups. There's amazing videos on YouTube of people from all these areas: Turkey, Azerbaijan, and multiple nation states in Central Asia, and they're all talking about the Turkish words that still are mutually intelligible, even across this gigantic swath of the Eastern Hemisphere. It's amazing. It's like an amazing linguistic group. So, and I was actually just barely talking to somebody I know who lives in North America now, and same deal. His surname, even though people don't realize it, people see his surname and they think it's something very different than what it is, but it's actually like it's actually a surname from Ottoman control of the Middle East. Yeah, it's definitely like an Ottoman surname, or it's like a modern version of an Ottoman surname. I'm 100% sure a Black Panther would be an amazing mascot for Midnight. I kind of agree, right? Black Panther is this is a great mascot. Pucky Hawk, I think you're onto something. We should just start pushing that. What China got banned? GPUs. How could this ever happen? Since I do this a lot, I'm pressuring you to make it so. I mean, I could make it, but I'm not the guy that does that. But I recommend a panther over a silhouette of trees stalking, hunting the moon. Oh, so the panther is stalking the moon. The panther is stalking the moon. So the panther has kind of a Lahu characteristic to him. That's interesting. Now you're talking about things I appreciate. Speaking of Gweniden, what is Gweniden? Tell me about Gweniden. I'm here now. Sorry for the targeting. Joe Davidson, you can come anytime you want. No worries. Yep. James Syracuse is it's okay, Joe. Powell would prefer an owl. Yeah, for sure. If Jerome Powell had like pumped our bags, then I would say the owl would be appropriate. And it is pretty appropriate, kind of like represents wisdom and knowledge, in multiple cultures. So owl would be cool. But owls are kind of low T. They're kind of low T. Black Panther is pretty high testosterone. So it's sort of like what you prefer, right? I agree. An owl is much less menacing, sort of represents being smart and wise. But, the Black Panther is just like high testosterone. So it's like, what do you like? At different times, I would definitely like different things, like the owl is much more comforting, but if I like wake up first thing in the morning and I just had like, 5 coffees in 1 hour, I'd probably say Black Panther. Streetwise says I prefer a confident owl. Black Panther is too closely associated with the trash movie IP. How about an owl riding on a Black Panther? Silent, like completely silent. Then they swoop in. That's true. Owls are. We're not very silent though. I don't think Cardano is very silent. Owl and panther, yeah, in different ways they are both apex predators. I mean, the owl is the apex predator. Well, I mean, like I guess like an eagle could eat an owl, right? Or like if a bobcat got a hold of an owl, if an owl was hanging out on the ground and a bobcat grabbed it, I'm sure a bobcat or like a cougar would try to eat an owl. But they've killed a few cats I've had and one dog. Yeah. I mean, I've seen some gigantic owls. I won't tell you where because it gives away too much, but I have been a party to some gigantic owl sightings, like scary large owls. Okay, let's move on. I like that. Can we please just hear 15 seconds? You know, I ran out of time today. I've got a couple songs. I've got Pucky Hawk's got 2 different songs, both of which are cool. Pucky Hawk, I listened to both songs. They're both cool. The first one, I love the first one. The second one's cool too. We're going to listen to both those songs, and DVNC also has a song he sent me. So I'm going to try to work all those songs in, probably at the end of some videos. I've just got to get them in the right format so I can play them for you easily. And that's something I can do, but we're going to do it. We're going to do it for sure. It's actually good. The song is actually pretty cool. Cardano like a praying mantis, except blue, the blue mantis. So it depends on how soon Trump gives his alien speech, because if he gives his alien speech and he talks about the same, and he starts talking about species, which I don't think he does, but if he gives that speech, people are going to start talking about different species. And we've already had a high-level whistleblower recently talk about mantis species, so that may give people the wrong impression. Owls have vision. Vision is good. That's good for Cardano. I agree with that. Pucky says, "Oh shit, I'm getting a beer." Oh yeah, we're gonna listen to the song, dude. It's good. Maybe not tonight. Maybe not tonight. I don't have it quite in a format where it'd make it easy, but we're gonna listen to the song. An owl swooping in to kill TradFi. I like that. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. How about a Black Panther with a tattoo of an owl? Like the Black Panther tattoo. The Black Panther in the tattoo has a tattoo of an owl. They're both pretty good ideas, actually. That's true. That's a good point. When Charles went on the thing with Avi Loeb off the coast of Papua New Guinea, that was one of the coolest things Charles has done, in my opinion, actually. The Powell owl. The bullet ant thing was I thought it was admirable that he did the bullet ant thing, but the searching for the spherules on the bottom of the ocean, I think that was honestly one of the coolest things I've seen a billionaire spend money on. The Powell owl. I'm ready. Go for it. Dude, I don't have it ready right now, so I don't think I can play it right now. We'll do it in a future video, I'm sure, but I don't think I have it ready to go right now without showing you guys too much of my emails, my mails. And it's not because I care about anything in there, but other people who've sent me messages might not want me to flash their names inside my email inbox. So this is also going on right now. Let's see. I think we skipped one. Let's see. We got DeepSeek. Okay, let's hit this. IR, we're gonna do a little IR news. So this has been kind of a lot of different news today. And I think it's because it's kind of a weird day because everybody was sort of waiting for the State of the Union. So it was sort of a weird news day. But we do have a few things to cover just from the last couple of days. So on the IR front, US President Donald J. Trump has told advisors that he is leaning toward conducting an initial strike on Iran in coming days, intended to demonstrate that they must be willing to agree to give up the ability to make a nuclear weapon. And that if diplomacy or any initial targeted attack does not lead Iran to give in to his demands to give up its nuclear program, he will consider a much bigger attack later in the year intended to drive Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei and other leaders from power, senior advisors have told the New York Times. So I think this is actually a bad sign, right? This is probably what the Iranian protesters, all of the young people in Iran, don't want to see. I think what's happened here, and they may talk about this in the next post. Yeah, I think they do, but let me just explain first. So I think what's happened here is Trump has been, my guess, and this is just speculation, but my speculation is that Trump has been leaning on his advisors, trying to get them to tell him, and I think this next post says the same thing pretty much. I think he's been trying to get his advisors to tell him that there is some magnitude of strike that is guaranteed to dislodge the clerics from power. And I think they have been unable to make those assurances. I think what Trump wants, he doesn't want to just strike the Iranian regime and have them, like take a hit, lose a bunch of guys, lose a bunch of assets, whether they're ballistic missile related or nuclear related or other. I don't think he wants to go in there and just blow up a bunch of very expensive missiles, both using our expensive missiles to blow up their expensive missiles and other assets, and use our very expensive missiles to kill a bunch of their guys. I don't think he wants to go in there and do that unless he's assured it'll actually lead to the protesters being able to overthrow the clerical regime. And I think his advisors have been unable to give him that assurance. So now he's walking it back and saying there's just going to be another one of these little tit for tat kind of attacks, kind of like the 6-Day War. It's like we hit a bunch of their nuclear sites and they sent, 1 million drones and missiles toward Israel and, some of our military installations, and we shot them down, and then everybody called it good. So it's starting to sound like he's leaning more towards that because he doesn't want to have a wider spread strike that makes him look weak because it doesn't actually dislodge the clerical regime. I'm afraid that's what's going on here. And I think that's what this next post talks about as well. So President Trump has grown increasingly frustrated with what aides describe as the limits of military leverage against Iran, with military planners telling the president that any strike on Tehran's assets would almost certainly not be a singular decisive blow. Instead, limited strikes could open the door to a wider confrontation, one that risks drawing the United States into a protracted conflict in the Middle East, according to multiple sources familiar with the matter who spoke to CBS News. Obviously, Trump is not trying to get into a land war here. Maybe the most unpalatable thing to U.S. voters right now, right before midterms, would be for the Republican administration to get the U.S. involved in something that looks like it's leading to a land war. That is like the last result, the last outcome this administration would want. Maybe it would be different after midterms, and that's kind of what I'm getting. That's sort of the vibe I'm getting from this, right? Like he's talking about just doing a little tit for tat strike, getting through midterms, and then launching the bigger strike. Because I think he's really worried. I think he knows there's a good chance he's going to lose a lot in these midterm elections. And he's like, man, if I open up a war with Iran, that could be the nail in the coffin where we really lose everything. You know what I mean? So not good news for the demonstrators in Iran. What they want is just to overturn the clerical regime. And what Trump wants is not that. And of course, a lot of people are worried about something that looks a lot more like this. But of course, the White House would say their whole goal is to prevent this because Iran, the clerical regime in Iran, can't be trusted to have nuclear weapons. And I would agree strongly with that. So given the amount of terrorism they've sponsored over many, many, many decades, they've proven themselves untrustworthy, right? We cannot allow them to have a nuclear weapon. So, okay, let's see where we are in the comments. Okay, Omar Wright says, I think they would be the top aerial predator in the dark. In the dark, yeah, I agree with that. Yep. So there are very large species of owl as well. So some so large that, even during the day, I don't think they're a real target for even even large even large predators, even large flying predators. So yeah, can I think of anything in the dark that would be more of a more of a top predator in the dark? No, I guess in the dark it is owls. So, maybe that's pretty fitting. But if they touch the ground, there's definitely predators who would be happy to have a little owl snack. And they kind of do have to touch the ground, most owls, because they're, a lot of them are hunting mice and other rodents, stuff like that. So they are coming pretty close to the ground. You could argue, maybe they're just like swooping down, their claw, the tip of their claw touches the ground for a second at most, as it's snatching the mouse. So maybe there's not any like realistic probability that a ground-based predator is going to get them. So that could be a thing too. Puckyhawk says, "Oh, first one, my bad. Actually, I have the wave files if you need that." No, I think I've just got to get what you sent me. I think what you sent me is fine. I've just got to get it in a format where I can play it on the stream. So I don't need to change the platform. I just need to get it in a place where I can grab it. So I don't think you need to do anything, but we'll listen to it because they are good. TradFi could be represented by a snake. I like that. I like the owl attacking a snake. This is also with the eagle attacking the snake is also on the Mexican flag. So I like that part of it very much. Cardano as an octopus. Blue octopuses, multiple independent limbs, smart, land and water, near immortal. These are good. This is a good argument for the octopus. Pretty good. Not even a harpy eagle. So I was actually thinking about harpy eagles as I was talking about that. So I'm sure it's happened, but it's like if you're a harpy eagle and you see a giant owl there, you could attack it because harpy eagles are gigantic. But it's like, how often does it really happen? Harpy eagle has many, many smaller, easier targets. Like barn owl also has talons, right? Not that, you know, not that predator birds don't attack other predator birds with talons, but it's like the harpy eagle, even a harpy eagle might get damaged by the talons of a barn owl if it attacks a barn owl. Whereas there are many other birds and rabbits and squirrels and things that it can attack that can't really harm it as readily. So I don't know. We'd have to ask some kind of a bird expert. What are they called? Ornithologists? Are they called ornithologists? We'd have to ask some kind of a bird scientist about this. Like, how often do harpy eagles attack the largest owls? I'll bet they would fuck up those small owls, those little small innocent looking owls. Harpy eagle would probably fuck those up just like it would anything else that size. But we'd have to ask an ornithologist about this harpy eagle versus barn owl. And I think I've seen some very large owls that weren't barn owls. So I'd be curious what is actually the largest owl. My favorite bird is a goshawk. Did y'all ever read the Animorph books as a kid? Never read it. Mantis shrimp. I have eaten one. I've eaten a mantis shrimp, and only later did I find out how fast they can move their claws. That whole boiling water around its claw by moving it so fast thing is crazy. I've also seen a lot of videos of people getting fucked up by mantis shrimp. I had no idea what it was when I ate it. Actually, I'd never even heard of a mantis shrimp when I ate it. They weren't internet famous yet, but it was pretty good. We need to ask Grok the owl and predator pairings. Yeah, we do. We need to sort that out. I wonder if there's an image of like a black panther eating an owl too, because that's a possibility. That's a possibility. We know there are videos of things like eagles, like golden eagles taking out goats in Central Asia. So larger predator birds do take out like raptors. Larger raptors do take out large mammals, but owls, the owl thing is a question. Let's see. Okay, Predator Badlands is pretty awesome. I was curious. I haven't fallen prey yet. Obviously, I watched the first Predator, and I think I've watched part of one of the subsequent Predators, maybe like number 2 or something. Then they got into the whole Predator versus Alien thing. Didn't watch any of that shit. Didn't watch Prey, but I'll admit I'm a little curious about Predator Badlands. Grok, what are the best animals to represent the supremacy of Cardano? This is a good question. Okay, guys, I think we made some good progress today. Okay, Eurasian eagle owl has a 6-foot wingspan. Barn owl only 4 foot. That makes sense to me. I was actually involved one time in kind of like I was like a one-day volunteer in a little project that was trapping. Some scientists were trapping raptors, including some eagles and very large hawks. And I released a hawk. I did the thing, where you hold it in the glove and you release it, which was kind of fun because at the time I was a little kid, and I was definitely having, fantasies of becoming involved in falconry one day until I later read a book about how hard it is to keep and care for falcons because they get they get various weird. I think in the book I read about it like a stargazing disease your falcon can get. So I didn't become engaged in that. Our Secretary of Health, RFK Jr., he's a falconry man. Obviously, falconry big in the Middle East too. I remember one time when I was a kid, I learned that Lamborghini had created an SUV with a retractable roof just for falconry in the Gulf states, which I thought was pretty impressive as a kid. Pucky Hawk says, that's why I like goshawks. They are jet fighters. They are jet fighters. What I wonder about the Eurasian eagle owl thing, like the harpy eagle and these other like large species of eagles, I wonder if they ever get a chance to get the barn owls, because the barn owls, I mean, owls, my experience with owls is you don't see them very often, except when they're getting ready to hunt at night. You know, like you might see one fly around at night, or you might see one come out like close to night or early in the morning or something. I'm guessing they're pretty good at avoiding the gigantic owls. The place where I saw the gigantic non-owls, the place where I saw the gigantic non-owls also has golden eagles and bald eagles for sure. So I'd be curious how much interaction there is between those two. I'll bet the owls are pretty good at avoiding those other raptors. Owls are formidable, but silent as fuck. Okay, I think we have explored the owl issue as much as possible tonight. Panthers, owls, these are all good ideas. I think we could have multiple different types, multiple different animal genres of midnight paraphernalia with both owls and, you know, Black Panthers, depending on your mood. Sometimes, we're studying. Sometimes we're drinking a nice single malt and we're studying something. The owl might be appropriate. Sometimes, we're out doing high testosterone things and the panther might be more appropriate. It sounded cooler than merchandise. But I think we've explored all of those possibilities for tonight. I think we've covered some of the good news. I'm really serious about this humanity scale problem thing, and that's where we need to aim our crypto energies. I think we need to spend a lot more time on this piece of it. But that's just something we've got to do. We've all got to kind of resolve. Okay. We're back. Sorry, we had a full loss. We had a full loss of power there. Sorry, guys. Okay, so where are we at? Okay. Okay, so sorry, the audio, the comments are sort of coming in. After the Win says, used up all the good luck getting to episode 800. Very true. He got too close to the truth and got taken out by an owl, possibly. Pucky Hawk still here. Huji Whammer says audio is back. I think we've covered all of the good news. I think we covered all of the owl and panther talk. I think it's time to wrap it up. But I hope everybody is having a great week. Thank you all for joining. I appreciate it very much. And I will talk to you soon.